The creators of Game of Thrones took one look at these floating fortresses and decided it was the perfect filming location. But there was one problem. The rules protecting these ancient sites are so strict that even HBO was turned away, forcing them to fake it with CGI. But the real thing, it's better than anything they could have built on a computer. Welcome to Meteora. Today I am showing you how to conquer these impossible cliffs in a single day trip, including the one monastery that went to war with James Bond. Welcome back to part 3 of our Greece vlog. If you are new here, you are watching Fullstack Nomads, where we share our life and adventures across Europe. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and let's go climb some cliffs. So how did we actually get up here? Honestly, we thought about doing this trip completely on our own at first, but when we looked into it, getting from Athens to Kalampaka, figuring out the local public bus schedules, trying to time everything perfectly, it just felt like there were way too many things that could go wrong. We really didn't want the hassle, so we booked a day trip package with key tours instead. They have a specific meeting spot in Athens. You show up before departure and they take off right on the dot. Escaping that crazy Athens traffic was intense, but we managed to score the front seat of the bus, which was the best thing we could have done. The views were non-stop. 1 minute we were driving past huge cliffs, and the next we were winding through this moody, foggy road. About 2.5 hours in, we stopped at this massive roadside restaurant for a 30-minute break. The place was absolutely packed with all sorts of people heading in every direction. Now, usually the drive to Kalampaka district is pretty straightforward, but our trip ended up taking over 5 hours. Why? Because we literally ran into a massive Greek farmers' protest blocking the highway, and our driver had to take this crazy long detour. But honestly, even with the delay, the tour was worth it. Our package included a local guide for the monasteries, which was a huge plus because we learned so much history that we would have completely missed if we were just wandering around by ourselves. Just a quick heads up, if you do book this, lunch and the actual entry fees to go inside the monasteries aren't included in the package. I'll drop the exact link we used in the description down below if you guys want to check it out for your own trip. Finally, we rolled into Kalampaka, and let me tell you, just seeing those massive rock pillars looming over the town instantly made the crazy 5-hour drive worth it. This is where our local tour guide hopped on the bus with us. Because we were running a bit behind schedule from the protest detour, he gave us a quick briefing and let us know we were going to have to shuffle the original itinerary around a little bit to make up for lost time. I'm not going to lie, I was a little worried we might have to skip things, but he immediately put us at ease. He promised us that no matter what, he was going to make sure we didn't miss a single iconic photo spot. And honestly, having a local who knew exactly how to navigate the roads, dodge the crowds, and adapt the schedule on the fly was a total lifesaver. He knew exactly where to take us first.
And it's a very unique geological phenomenon that we're going to admire today, of course. We're going to make brief stops to the most interesting viewpoints of Meteora, to enjoy the views, the landscape, to have our photos. We're going to talk about the history of the monastic community, generally the history of the area, and of course about the geological phenomenon and how everything formed here in first place. During this process, we are going to visit 2 instead of 3 active monasteries of Meteora. We are going to visit the Nunnery of Rousanou. This is going to be our first visit. That's the smallest structure of our community and one of the 2 nunneries that we have here in Meteora. So instead of monks, we have nuns inside. And after that, directly we will continue to visit the monastery of Varlaam, which is the most prestigious monastery here in Meteora and the second biggest and oldest. Now, after the whole expedition up to Meteora, we will return back to the center of the village of Kastraki in about 2.5 hours from now in order to have your lunch break. Your lunch break is gonna be a half an hour stop. the last half an hour of the tour, and after that you are ready to continue your journey down to Athens. Okay, so now we are in the village of Kastraki. We are going to leave the village of Kastraki behind us in order to enter to the World Heritage Site of Meteora. Before I continue with further explanations, I want you to know that in order to visit both of the monasteries of Meteora that we are visiting today, we have to follow some very specific rules. First of all, we have to pay the fees for the entrances, which are €5 per person. And we have to follow also a very specific dress code. For the ladies, you have to cover the shoulders and the legs. If you don't have something to cover yourselves, don't worry, they will provide you with everything that you need at the entrance of each monastery for free. Okay, now, before we leave entirely behind us the village of Kastraki, and before we enter officially to Meteora to visit our first monastery, the monastery of Rousanou, which is actually a nunnery, I want you to know that the starting point for the monastic presence here in Meteora is the 10th century. 1,000 years ago, the first monks came here to Meteora in order to occupy the caves of the geological phenomenon and make them their homes. We are calling the first monks of Meteora instead of monks hermits, and we are using a different name to describe them because hermit is a word with Greek origin. It's a word with Greek origin from the Greek word eremos. Eremos means two things, desert and all alone. So these type of monks are living all their lives all alone, fully isolated, usually by occupying caves in isolated places, exactly like Meteora. Came here in order to start the construction of the first monastery of Great Meteoron. Only 10 years after that, another group of monks follow exactly the same example. They came opposite from Great Meteoron in order to establish the monastery of Varlaam. So these are the two oldest and by far the two biggest monasteries of Meteora. The rest of our monasteries, all of them, active or inactive ones nowadays, were established here until the 16th century. That's the case also on your right, where you can see the monastery of St. Nicholas, the first monastery on our way up, and the monastery that was constructed by a small group of Greek Orthodox monks during the middle decades of the 15th century. Some of the monks were starving to death during this period, and exactly at the same period of time, the Ottoman Empire, for the first time during the Ottoman occupation years, was pushing the monastic community for more taxes. So because of
True to his word, our guide brought us to our first epic location, the Monastery of Rousanou. Though, fun fact, it's actually a nunnery. It is one of the only ones in Meteora currently inhabited by nuns. Getting up to it is a bit of a mini workout. You have to climb these stone steps and cross this little bridge that hangs right over the drop off. I still can't wrap my head around how they built these hundreds of years ago without modern equipment. Just looking down gives you vertigo. But the craziest part is the contrast. From the outside, it looks like this intense, untouchable stone fortress. But once you step inside, the nuns keep it so peaceful. There are these beautiful little courtyards and incredible frescoes on the wall. Now, you aren't really allowed to film inside the actual chapels. They are very strict about the rules since it's an active place of worship, which totally makes sense. But honestly, the best part is walking out onto the balconies anyway. The panoramic views of the other rocks from up here are just unreal. After grabbing some amazing shots at Rousanou, we hopped back on the bus and headed to our next stop, the Monastery of Varlaam. Our guide told us this is the second largest monastery in all of Meteora, and you can definitely feel how massive it is once you get up here. But the absolute craziest thing we saw here was the old rope tower. So before they finally carved the stairs into the rock in the 1920s, the only way the monks could get up here or bring up supplies was by sitting in a literal rope net and being hoisted up by a wooden winch, hundreds of feet in the air, dangling over the edge, just hoping the rope didn't snap. They actually still have the old net and the original wooden barrel they used to catch rainwater on display. It really puts into perspective how extreme it was to live here. We spent some time just wandering through the courtyards and checking out the little museum they have inside. The vibe here is just so historic and peaceful. But the clock was ticking on our day trip, and our guide had promised us some epic photo stops before the sun started going down, so we had to keep moving. After Varlaam, our guide took us off the main path to some hidden photo spots around the back of the cliffs. And guys, we saw the craziest thing. Remember how I was just talking about them using ropes to get around? Well, looking across the gap, we actually saw this little metal box sliding across two cables, suspended right over a massive drop. It's like this intense makeshift cable car they still use to move things across the peaks. But the absolute peak of the entire trip was our final stop. Our guide timed it perfectly and brought us to this huge panoramic lookout just as the sun was starting to set. You get this sweeping view of multiple cliffs stretching out across the valley. And from there, we could perfectly see the Holy Trinity Monastery sitting on the top of one of the highest pillars. This is actually the famous James Bond monastery I mentioned earlier. When the Hollywood crew came to film For Eyes Only back in 80s, the monks were so against it that they actually hung their dirty laundry and bright plastic sheets out of the windows just to ruin the camera shots. Thinking about that funny history while seeing it glowing in the sunset with those terrifying sheer drops all around it, it was just breathtaking. It's one of those moments where you just have to put the camera down for a second and take it all in. As much as we wanted to stay, the sun was going down and we had a long journey back to Athens ahead of us. We hopped back on the bus and eventually stopped for a lunch where I finally got to have some authentic Greek moussaka. About an hour and a half later, we pulled over for one more quick dinner break to stretch our legs before finishing the drive. This Meteora day trip was such a wild experience and honestly the perfect way to cap off our time in Greece. If you are new to the channel, this video is actually part 3 of my Greece series. I have 2 other vlogs covering all our adventures in Athens and Santorini, so definitely go binge those next. And if you love traveling, I have a bunch of other vlogs exploring different European countries, so be sure to check those out too. If you enjoyed exploring these gravity-defying monasteries with me today, please hit that like button and make sure to subscribe. It really helps me out. And if you want to go the extra mile to support my travels and content I make, I've left a link to my Buy Me a Coffee in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.